First up tonight, something a little different. We begin our election countdown series, Issues That Matter. Here's the full list based on a recent Fox News poll. The #1 issue is, of course, the economy. #2, terrorism. Then it's education, race relations, federal deficit, health care is 6th. Then climate change, foreign policy, immigration, and at #10, drug addiction. That is where we begin tonight. This evening, senior correspondent Rick Leventhal here in New Hampshire with concerns about the growing drug epidemic affecting the country, but specifically this region.
Authorities call this Operation Granite Hammer. Agents with the Drug Enforcement Administration join local police busting suspected drug buyers in Manchester, New Hampshire, home to more heroin and opioid addicts per capita than almost anywhere in America.
New Hampshire has suffered so greatly from the heroin crisis and the drugs pouring across the border. The rate of heroin overdose has nearly quadrupled in the state. Once again, our politicians have tragically failed this country.
Both presidential candidates have addressed the issue during this campaign.
When you're ready to get help, there's not enough places to go to get help. And we are losing thousands and thousands of Americans of all age, but particularly young Americans, under 40. And we have got to address this.
Hillary Clinton has pledged $10 billion to fight the opioid epidemic, $7.5 billion to support a new federal-state partnership that aims to prevent and treat drug addiction, the rest for existing substance abuse programs, and wants to expand treatment instead of jail for nonviolent offenders. Donald Trump, short on specifics, says he will, quote, stop the flow of illegal drugs into the country, in part by building a wall, and will help all of those people so seriously addicted get the assistance they need. The number of addicts has skyrocketed in the past decade, fueled by the use and abuse of prescription drugs and the rise of fentanyl, a synthetic opioid 40 to 50 times stronger than street-level heroin. Dealers often mix the two to lure users, and the results can be deadly. With tens of thousands of overdose deaths every year nationwide, at least 80 of them here in Manchester since January.
We're up well over 600 calls for the year so far, just on overdose calls alone.
Firefighters now spend much of their day responding to OD calls, trying to resuscitate addicts 3 to 5 times every shift.
You've been with the Manchester Fire Department 32 years.
32 years, yes.
Never seen anything like this?
Never seen anything like this, never.
Chris Blevins lost her stepdaughter Amber to a heroin overdose and says she's not sure either candidate understands the scope of the problem.
They're not talking about a plan. What are you going to do that's going to save a life tonight?
Dennis Nugent is a recovering addict whose wife died of a suspected OD.
If I mourned every single person that we've lost, you know, either directly or indirectly, I would be in mourning 24 hours a day.
Now he's counseling others on the challenge of overcoming opioids.
You can provide an example for somebody, but nobody's going to change unless they do it themselves.
The Manchester Fire Department created a program to try to help called Safe Station. It encourages anyone with addiction issues to walk into any firehouse and get fast-tracked into a treatment facility.
When we go to them, it's usually because they've hit rock bottom or they've overdosed. When they come to us, it's a choice.
This was Erin's second visit in a week.
I'm not a bad person. I just made bad choices. But I'm not going to give up on myself.
We look at it as if you show up once and you come back twice, that's a 100% success rate because you found us the first time and you had an issue and came back again.
Stephanie Bergeron handles many of the cases referred by the fire department, but she and her staff couldn't save them all.
I can think of 4 of them off the top of my head that really rattled us.
Communities are being ruined. If anything could be likened to a weapon of mass destruction, it's heroin and fentanyl.
DEA Deputy Administrator Jack Riley admits interdiction efforts can't fix this plague that will be waiting for the next president to address.
And who's ever in charge in the White House, this is something they need to pay attention to.
The aggressive street-level bust will continue. The feds and local police trying to follow the supply chain from the buyers to the sellers to the distributors. And the treatment facility staying very busy here in Manchester, with addicts walking into this firehouse and others across the city every single day looking for help. But people are dying too, and this is a crisis that stretches from coast to coast, with nearly 50,000 overdose deaths every single year. That's far more people than are killed in car crashes. Brett?
It's such a huge story, Rick. I did a great job talking to all sides. This didn't, though, start with heroin and fentanyl. This epidemic was fueled by prescription drugs, right?
Right. America has just under 5% of the world's population. We consume roughly 80% of the world's pain medication, literally billions of pills annually, including the highly addictive oxycodone. People get hooked on it, and when they can't get the oxy, they often switch to heroin, which has a similar effect, but is far cheaper. Now, the DEA has received criticism for not doing more to target the drug companies and their suppliers, all of this creating a huge challenge for whoever moves into the White House next January.
Rick, thank you. That's why immigration and border security is such a huge issue here in New Hampshire.